Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something super exciting, Five Nights TD, the latest tower defense game that's got everyone buzzing. If you're a fan of iconic animatronics and love strategizing to top those leaderboards, then you're in the right place. We've got a complete Five Nights TD tier list coming your way to help you pick the best animatronics for your team. Stick around as we break down the top performers and those you might want to think twice about. Now, grab some popcorn and get comfy because we're about to embark on a wild ride through the creepy and thrilling world of Five Nights TD. Whether you're a seasoned player or just getting started, this tier list will give you all the insights you need to build a killer lineup and conquer those challenges. Let's get into it and see which animatronics are the real game changers and which ones might be a bit of a letdown. Ready to dominate? Let's dive in. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking units in the Five Nights TD. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
First, let's start with the unit tier list I created for the early game. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Summer Toy Bonnie, and Foxy. Alright folks, let's dive into the world of D tier units in Five Nights TD. First up we have Toy Freddy. Oh boy, where do we start? Toy Freddy is like the kid who always gets picked last in gym class. His range is pretty pathetic and his default DPS is a mere 20. If you're looking for a solid early game unit, Toy Freddy just won't cut it. Next on the list is Toy Bonnie. Honestly, Toy Bonnie is the embodiment of bad stats all around. Nothing about him stands out, and not in a good way. Now let's talk about Summer Toy Bonnie. Sure, she can slow down enemies, but that's about it. You'd be better off sticking with a regular starter unit. And finally, Foxy, why is he even here? As a melee unit, he's just not suited for a tower defense game. His lack of range and utility make him a tough choice. So if you're aiming for early game success, these D tier units are best left on the bench. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Rockin' Bonnie, Baker Toy Chica, Chica, and Withered Chica. Alright folks, let's dive into the C tier early game units for Five Nights TD. First up, we've got Rockin' Bonnie. On paper, Rockin' Bonnie looks like a solid choice with her full AoE attacks, but honestly, there are better starters you might want to prioritize. She's got a lot going on, but don't get too attached. There are more effective options out there. Then there's Baker Toy Chica, our explosion unit friend. She's decent for those starting out with her explosive attacks coming in handy in the early stages. Chica, also an explosion unit, comes with a low attack speed. She's okay for dealing with weak enemies early on, but don't count on her for anything beyond that. And last but not least, Withered Chica. Honestly, she's just a step up from Toy Bonnie, and you're better off skipping her. Stick with the better options and you'll be cruising through the early game in no time. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Sniper Cupcake, Major Freddy, Commando Endo, Freddy Pirate Withered Foxy, and Vendor Toy Chica. Alright, let's dive into the B tier early game units for Five Nights TD. First up, we have Sniper Cupcake. While it boasts an impressive range that can cover a lot of ground, its DPS is a bit on the low side. Plus, its limit of only 3 placements can be a bit restrictive, making it a decent but not stellar choice. Then there's Major Freddy, a solid pick for single target DPS with 4 placements and a good range. He's a reliable choice for your initial defense setup. Moving on, Commando Endo's DPS might not blow you away, but his summons are pretty handy, providing extra support and damage. Freddy, on the other hand, is a great starter with a high placement count and low upgrade costs, making him a fantastic value. Pirate Withered Foxy is in a similar boat to Major Freddy, offering solid starting stats but falling short on DPS. Lastly, we've got Vendor Toy Chica. She's essentially a less powerful version of Patriot Freddy, but still does a respectable job in the early waves. Each of these units has its own strengths and weaknesses, so mix and match to find the best fit for your strategy. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Phantom Foxy, Endo02, Phantom Cupcake, and Rad Freddy. Alright folks, let's dive into some A tier early game units for Five Nights TD. First up, we've got Phantom Foxy. This guy's a real gem, especially in the early stages. He's super affordable and delivers solid single target DPS with just 4 placements. If you're looking to keep those early waves under control without breaking the bank, Phantom Foxy's your go-to. Now, if you're after something with a bit more range and still solid DPS, Endo02 is worth considering. But honestly, Phantom Foxy edges out here with its sheer efficiency. Moving on to Phantom Cupcake, this unit is an absolute powerhouse with one of the highest DPS among the starters. And let's not forget Rad Freddy, think of him as Sniper Cupcake on steroids. He packs nearly double the DPS, making him an early game must-have. So whether you're stacking up on cheap DPS or looking for that extra firepower, these units are sure to give you a leg up in those initial waves. The units in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right, Patriot Freddy, Witch Toy Chica, and Tarnished Spring Bonnie. Alright, let's dive into some S tier early game units in Five Nights TD. First up, we've got Patriot Freddy. This guy is a real gem for starting out, super affordable and packs a punch with his explosive attacks. If you're struggling with those early big waves, Patriot Freddy's your go-to. He's like the reliable sidekick you didn't know you needed, making your early game a breeze. Next, we've got Witch Toy Chica, another fantastic starter. She's not only budget-friendly, but also handles both bosses and mobs with ease. If you're looking for a unit that can really pull its weight from the get-go, Witch Toy Chica is definitely worth considering. And let's not forget Tarnished Spring Bonnie. While she's a bit trickier to get a hold of and relies on melee attacks, her damage and range are off the charts. So if you're up for a challenge and want to bring some serious firepower to your early game, Tarnished Spring Bonnie should be on your radar. Now, here's the list of the best units for mid-game. The units in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right, Cupcake Tank, Golden Freddy, Toy Chica, and Balloon Boy. Alright, let's dive into the D tier units for the mid-game in Five Nights TD. First up, we've got the Cupcake Tank. Now this guy is pretty much the epitome of uselessness. Its summons barely make a dent in the enemy waves, and honestly, it's so ineffective that it deserves its own tier just to highlight how underwhelming it is. If you're thinking about adding Cupcake Tank to your roster, just don't. There are far better options out there. Next, let's talk about Golden Freddy. This unit suffers from low DPS and a high cost, making it a tough sell in any strategy. If you're looking to maximize your efficiency, Golden Freddy is not the way to go. And then there's Toy Chica. Her range and DPS are both lackluster, leaving her in the dust compared to other units. Balloon Boy? He's basically Toy Chica, but at a whopping 4 times the price. It's hard to imagine a worse investment, so definitely steer clear of Balloon Boy if you want to keep your strategy on point. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Coco Boy, Endo03, and Withered Foxy. Alright, let's dive into the C tier units for the mid-game in Five Nights TD. First up, we have Coco Boy. Now, Coco Boy might not be the star of the show, but he does have his moments. He's a notch above Balloon Boy thanks to his explosion radius, which can make a difference. It's not a game changer, but it's enough to give him a bit of an edge if you're running low on options. Then there's Endo03. He's kind of like that reliable backup you keep around just in case. He's not top tier, but with a placement count of 4 and some decent single target DPS, he can hold his own when the situation calls for it. Finally, we have Withered Foxy. This one used to be a top pick back in the day, but now he's been overshadowed by newer, more powerful units. You can definitely use him as a starter or in a pinch, but trust me, there are better choices out there. So if you find yourself with these C tier units, remember they're not the worst, but there's definitely room for improvement. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Bonnie, Withered Freddy, and Glitched Cupcake. Alright, let's dive into some of the B tier mid-game units in Five Nights TD. First up, we've got Bonnie, Now Bonnie's basically a higher range, lower DPS version of Withered Freddy. While Bonnie does have that extended range, it comes at the cost of a higher placement and upgrade cost, making it less ideal for your mid-game setup. So if you're looking to optimize your strategy, you might want to consider other options. Next, we have Withered Freddy, who's a solid pick with his continuous DPS and a decent placement count of 3. But here's the kicker. His upgrade costs are pretty steep, which can make him a bit of a burden in your mid-game lineup. Lastly, there's Glitched Cupcake. This guy brings some decent AoE damage to the table, but his range is a bit on the short side. So while he can deal some serious damage, he might not always hit the mark compared to other mid-game units. Keep these in mind when planning your defenses. The units in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right: 7C's Foxy, Mercenary Foxy, Phantom Balloon Boy, Algae Fredbear, Rocketeer Mangle, Phantom Golden Freddy, and Artillery Puppet. Alright, let's dive into the best A-tier mid-game units for 5 Nights TD. First up, we've got 7C's Foxy. Think of him as a slightly toned-down version of Leviathan Mangle, but with a longer range. He's great for handling those pesky mobs in the mid-game, especially since he got a recent buff. Next, we've got Mercenary Foxy. This guy is super budget-friendly and packs a punch when you place multiple units. Even though his base damage might be lower, you can place up to 4 of them, making him a fantastic choice for mid-game strategy. Moving on to Phantom Balloon Boy, this unit's damage, range, and AoE are huge, making him a solid mid-game pick. Algae Fredbear might be a toned-down version of Withered Golden Freddy, but he's still pretty solid, despite having a cap of 3 placements. Rocketeer Mangle boasts impressive DPS for an explosion unit, though its low range does hurt its overall ranking. Finally, we have Phantom Golden Freddy, which might not quite match up to Withered Golden Freddy, but is still a strong choice. And don't overlook Artillery Puppet. While its long range and high base damage are excellent, its bad cooldown might make you rethink your AoE options. The units in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right: Circuit Breaker Freddy, Scott, War Machine Foxy, Sentinel Bonnie, and Withered Golden Freddy. Let's dive into some of the top S-tier mid-game units in 5 Nights TD. First up, we've got Circuit Breaker Freddy. This unit is a powerhouse with incredible single-target DPS, making it a fantastic choice for mid-game scenarios. It's so strong that it can even hold its own towards the end of the game. The only catch? Its placement cost is a bit on the high side, so you'll need to budget accordingly. Next, let's talk about Scott. If there's one unit that can single-handedly turn the tide in mid-game, it's Scott. With his insane damage output, splash effect, and impressive range, he's designed to be a game changer. Scott comes with 6 upgrade levels, making him practically unbeatable if used right. On the other hand, War Machine Foxy is another fantastic pick with high stats and a low placement cost. It's the perfect blend of efficiency and power, allowing for quick upgrades and early transitions to your pricier units. Sentinel Bonnie, an upgraded version of War Machine Foxy, offers slightly less DPS but compensates with greater range, making it a top contender. And don't overlook Withered Golden Freddy, which might even surpass Sentinel Bonnie with its higher DPS, though it requires a bit more investment. These units are all stellar choices, each with its own strengths to tackle the challenges ahead. Finally, let's talk about the best units in the late game. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Mangle, Puppet, Amalgam, and Cascade. Alright, let's dive into some of the less impressive late game units in 5 Nights TD that you might want to avoid if you're looking to optimize your setup. First up is Mangle. Now, Mangle's DPS, range, and explosion radius are all pretty lackluster. It's really hard to justify choosing Mangle over other options, even when compared to Puppet, which is another tough pick. Speaking of Puppet, let's just say it's been through so many rebalances that it's almost impressive how it's managed to stay underwhelming. With one of the lowest DPS stats in the game, Puppet is definitely not the unit you want if you're looking to keep your sanity intact. Then there's Amalgam, which, while it brings some slow to the table, is outclassed by units with better DPS. And let's not forget Cascade, the game's first money-farming unit, which unfortunately doesn't contribute much to the actual gameplay. So, if you want to keep your late-game strategy sharp, steer clear of these units and focus on more effective alternatives. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Shadow Freddy, Phantom Freddy, and Phantom Chica. Alright, let's dive into the C tier units for the late game in Five Nights TD. First up, we have Shadow Freddy. Despite his eerie appearance, Shadow Freddy falls short in the damage department. With his low DPS and AoE range, he just can't stack up against other heavy hitters like Shadow Bonnie or Blighted Endo Freddy. If you're looking for effective crowd control or high damage output, Shadow Freddy is probably not your best bet. Next, let's talk about Phantom Freddy. For a $15k unit, Phantom Freddy's performance feels pretty underwhelming. He struggles with a low placement count, mediocre DPS, and limited range. It's clear that he's in need of some serious buffs to become a more viable option. On the brighter side, Phantom Chica stands out as a much better choice. With her fully upgraded form, she offers decent damage, a low cooldown, and large AoE explosions. While she's not top tier, she definitely outperforms Mangle and can be a solid addition to your lineup. The units in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right: Marionette's Puppeteer, Withered Bonnie, Phantom Puppet, and Endo. Alright, let's dive into some B tier units for the late game in Five Nights TD. First up, we've got Marionette's Puppeteer. This one's a solid pick if you're working with a budget. It delivers impressive AoE DPS once fully upgraded, though you might find its range a bit lacking. Still, if you're looking to stretch those coins, this unit is definitely worth considering for its bang for buck value. Next, let's talk about Withered Bonnie. Imagine a long-range, single-target version of Shadow Freddy, but with stats that lag behind the other heavy hitters at the endgame. Despite its drawbacks, you can snag Withered Bonnie without breaking the bank, making it a reliable investment for those who want a bit more firepower on a budget. And then there's Phantom Puppet, a beefed-up version of Leviathan Mangle. It's got great base damage but can feel a bit excessive until you're deep into Endless mode. Lastly, we have Endo, which boosts damage and shines in Endless play. However, if you're looking for the top tier damage support, Spring Bonnie still takes the cake. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Bounded Shadow, Plain Boy, Leviathan Mangle, Enforcer Bonnie, Hawaii Endo 02, and Spring Bonnie. Alright, let's dive into the A tier late game units for Five Nights TD. First up, we've got the Bounded Shadow, which is a total beast when it comes to piercing through hordes of enemies. With its incredible DPS, it can match even some of the continuous units out there. The only catch? Its range is a bit lacking and you're only allowed to place 2 of them, so positioning is key. Still, if you can work around those limitations, this unit can be a game changer. Next, let's talk about Plain Boy. This unit is one of the pricier options, but its range and DPS are top-notch, making it a fantastic pick for late-game strategies. That said, it only allows for 2 placements, which puts it behind units like Phantom Mangle. Then there's Leviathan Mangle, a powerhouse for handling both groups of enemies and single targets with impressive efficiency. On the support front, Hawaii Endo 02 shines with its extended range, boosting your DPS units' uptime. And for a slight upgrade, Spring Bonnie offers a stronger version of Endo, perfect for those endless runs. So, whether you're looking to pierce through the crowd or bolster your defenses, these A-tier units have got you covered. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Glitched Puppeteer, Valkyrie Chica, Phantom Mangle, Blighted Endo Freddy, Shadow Bonnie, and Abyssal Foxy. Alright folks, let's dive into the creme de la creme of late game units in Five Nights TD. First up, we've got the Glitched Puppeteer, a late game beast that's essentially Scott on steroids. This guy boasts the highest DPS in the game and an insane range. The only catch? You can only place 3 of them, but trust me, it's totally worth it. Next we have Valkyrie Chica. She's the definition of bang for your buck. Super cheap to place and upgrade, yet one of the best single target DPS units you can get your hands on. If you're looking for power without breaking the bank, she's your go-to. Moving on, Phantom Mangle is another standout for single target damage, and with more placement spots than Valkyrie Chica, it's a solid pick for stacking up damage. Now, Blighted Endo Freddy is your ultimate AoE powerhouse. With impressive range and DPS, it's hard to beat, though it's worth noting that its performance is only marginally better than Marionette's. If you're ready to splurge, Shadow Bonnie offers nearly 50% more power than Blighted Endo Freddy, albeit with a shorter range and a hefty price tag. Finally, let's not forget Abyssal Foxy. Post-buff, this unit is arguably the top continuous DPS in the game. Its permanent slow effect and overall stats make it a fierce competitor against other top-tier units. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.